What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade with your weekend crypto report. As always, I'll be doing a technical analysis and giving you my thoughts on the coins listed up here. One quick thing I want to point out is that I really only care about the top 4 coins on this list. So unless you comment down below begging to keep these bottom 6 in here, we're going to drop them going forward. The other thing I want to point out before we get going is that we did move to a 4-hour time frame instead of the 1 hour. It's just going to give us a little bit more of a smooth chart to look at and some longer time frame duration to at least consider for the upcoming weekend. So that being said, jumping into Bitcoin, I do want to point out 2 main things. The first thing is that we're definitely in a downtrend, right? We can draw on a resistance trend line like that, and of course a support trend line kind of like this. Notice how we've respected the low end nearly perfectly in this most recent touch. The other thing I want to point out is that this is almost coinciding with a nice horizontal area of resistance that we have around 31,180, okay? So very important that it held there, super support. Now I would assume that if we can take out this sort of flat area of highs in here, we're probably headed back up to revisit the resistance trend line. So that would be the play I would watch into the upcoming weekend. Any price acceptance over 32,350 just about, look for a move into the resistance trend line. If we do not, I would expect just slow and steady grind lower in this nice controlled channel that we've been in. We've respected the support portion of the trend channel for now, so I wouldn't expect anything to change out of the blue unless there's some major drastic news. Maybe there's some more fears out of China. I really don't know what it could be, but again, really expecting more of a controlled downtrend to continue if we cannot break out over that 32,350 mark. If there is any sort of major breakdown, the area I would watch out for is firstly this 30,500. Where are you? Somewhere in there. And then the next area, of course, would just be 30,000. That has been sort of critical for Bitcoin in the past. So just keeping an eye on those nice round numbers if there is a major breakdown. But based on this chart, I really do like that potential break over this area here. Jumping over to Litecoin next. Again, we will sort of have a lot of similar charts when we do things like this, but resistance trendline, we haven't come into it as many times, so that's a difference there. The other thing that's more similar is, of course, we are respecting to the T our support portion of the trend channel. And again, if we just do a horizontal level off of this, pretty much came in right where expected, found support at the lower end and horizontal level there at 119.60. This one doesn't have as clean of a breakout level, so like this kind of would be the equivalent of that Bitcoin mark if we had more candle highs up in that area, but it's just not there. So in terms of which one I would favor a long into the weekend, probably Bitcoin over Litecoin here. If we can take out this little double top, it's a very, very small area of resistance. I wouldn't put too much weight into it, actually coming and coinciding nicely with those prior supports as well. But 128, first resistance, any break above that, then yes, I would target the resistance trend line, which is going to coincide, based on time passing as well, right? Nicely for a super resistance right at this prior area, right around 132.40 as well. So that's what I would watch out for on Litecoin. But again, controlled downtrend in play here. The breakout level is not as clear to me. Ethereum, a little bit different, obviously a lot steeper of a resistance trend line. We could do something like this, and we are respecting it. We're still well below it, but starting to form a little bit of an H pattern, which could be read as 2 different ways. The way I'm reading this one here is that this was our prior low right here. And if sellers were really going to make something happen, they should have made it happen right here. Right? As soon as you break that low, if the downtrend's really going to continue, you should see some fireworks on the break. But because that didn't happen, we do H. Instead of H for breakdown, it's H for hell from shorts. And that one's right textbook out of Shadow Trader. Really a big inspiration of mine. So hell for shorts here. If we get any acceptance over this resistance trend line, boom, it's right up to here. I think that could happen quite snappy with some sort of short covering up to about 2012. After that, I would really look at this prior area of support to act as resistance closer to 2080. Now, if the shorts miraculously keep it underneath the support trend line and continue to take out this low at 1852, call it 1850 for round numbers sake, look left, there's a pivotal low in here, which I would expect some sort of reaction at, and that number is going to be at 1734. Nextly, we have ADA for Cardano, and again, this is the sort of cutoff for the ones that I find important. You'll notice that I talk much more highly of these coins as opposed to anything else on the list. For now, resistance trendline isn't even close to in play. Again, this is sort of another H, which in my opinion should be hell for shorts. If they were going to make a go of it, they should have consolidated down here instead of rebounding and this green candle actually retracing 100% of that red candle there. So although we're not out of the woods yet, I would keep a close eye on what happens where we're currently trading right now at 1.20. If we can hold up above it, great. I do think that this shorter term downtrend, so this one here, definitely breaks. I mean, look at how steep that is. It's just going to break sideways through time if not. But the next area of resistance, 124, 125, so we'll put an area in there as well. That's going to be almost equivalent to your Bitcoin breakout level at 124. If it goes higher than that, next major area to keep an eye on here in Cardano is probably up here at 128.77. After that, really some clearance until the resistance trendline, which may, depending on time, coincide with this area here, which is more important than the ones we've just outlined, simply because there's a lot more price history around it. So we have this as well as newfound resistance at 131.66. I'd keep a close eye on that on any major breakout. These are sort of intermediate levels, if you will, with this one kind of being the line in the sand for more upside if we get up and into it. To the downside, again, just looking left for next support, obviously we're going to want to see if there is any reaction here. There really shouldn't be, just based on the green nature of this candle. If that's revisited, I would expect that they move through it this time and really come down into our next major area, which is going to be just putting a quick eyeball test to it around $1.11. So that would kind of be my line in the sand here for Cardano into the weekend. I do want to just quickly check and see if this makes sense, which it doesn't really. Again, just trying to see if there's symmetry between the other coins and this one here. But this support trend line is not really in play. I wouldn't watch out that. So next up, moving into the coins that don't matter as much to me, we'll go through them much quicker. Doge, again, I would never recommend anyone to buy or even trade this thing at this point. You can clearly see the downtrend that it's in, something like this. It's just horrific. And, you know, I feel bad for anyone who got roped in with the SNL thing all the way up there at the highs, close to 75 cents. I mean, just outrageous that this thing's down trading around 18 right now. Let's go ahead and map this out as a critical area of support around 1646. If it gets into there, I would expect a little bit of a dead cat bounce, something like this to happen, because I'm sure a lot of the Doge fans are looking at this area. They're saying, you know what, if it gets back down there, I'm going to load the boat some more and buy some more Dogecoin. So I would expect a little bounce there. But as the chart currently is just blatantly obvious, huge downtrend here, huge failure of a coin. I would not invest or even trade this thing in the first place. Next up, we have Ripple, and this one is a little bit more controlled. I like the downtrend that's happening here. Again, controlled downtrends are not bad. They're good. They're going to give us areas to trade against of high interest and high probability. What I like about this is it's more of a descending triangle now with flat lows here at 58 cents, 63 after that. So if we break, I would just see or expect a move into our next major area of resistance, which is going to be around 53.80, we'll call it. And that's quite a significant trade here in Ripple. So I would watch out for that on the short side, not really favoring the longs just based on the downtrend that we're in. If we do take out the resistance trend line, just walk up your next pivotal major areas of support and resistance. That would be the one I would pay attention to, right around 65 cents. You can see plenty of price interaction in here, then flip to resistance. So that would be the line in the sand to the upside. After that, sure, walk up your pivot highs closer to 71 cents after that. DOT for Polkadot is up next. And if we look at this, firm downtrend, kind of just like what we saw in Dogecoin, not really as impressive or tempting to try to buy some sort of bottom in here. I would argue that the resistance trend line, very steep, probably broken sideways through time. There really is no support immediately to our left. If we do something like this, I would expect this to act as resistance if there's any sort of major upturn there at 14.17. To the downside, to sort of pick out an area of support, you can see I have to scrunch this chart up quite a bit, and I really, this is not what you want to do, but ideally the support comes in at the prior breakout point here at $10.45 here on Polkadot. Really just not something I would advise anyone go long on right now, just based on the nature of the chart, the fact that there is clearance all the way down until that 10.45. Next up, we have Uni for Unicorn, not Uniswap, but Unicorn. And the trend here is obviously down. You could say we had some sort of head and shoulders here, broke the neckline, and now we're fulfilling that pattern to the downside. But the clear difference here is that we do have some supports underneath us. I would say this is critical resistance. We're kind of trading around it now. You can see it was support, then offered support and support, but now that we're below it, it turns to resistance, right? That's a fundamental property of technical analysis. Next area of support to watch out for on any further downturn is really at 15.45, we'll call it. If we get down there, expect maybe a little bit of a dead cat bounce again for the same reasons we talked about on Doge. People may be saying, oh, wow, I can visually see this this level here. I might rest an order down here. You can see volume is increased in the background. It's very faint, but volume is trading up here as opposed to what we had somewhere down here. So this may be a temporary bottom here in Uniswap just based on the nature of a lot of volume transacting here. Either people panicking out of their longs and finally throwing in the towel, and people who are smart and kind of buying this dip, quote unquote, if you will. Overall, again, I focus on those top four. This wouldn't be something I would just buy in because if we look left, you can see really this there's some room to fall too if this breaks, right? If we break there, it's really down to 13. I would call it, let's say 1385, and that's just not a trade I want to be wrapped in, right? So from 1698, so call it 17 down to 1385, just not an ideal, situation there. So for me, kind of avoiding this one. If there is any acceptance over the 1698, maybe watch it for your next area of resistance to come in, probably closer to this area here around 1854, 1855 if you want to round it. Next up, we have Chainlink, and this one, again, sort of not ideal, very strong downtrend that it's in. If we just expand this here, put on auto, and draw in the resistance trend line, very steep, probably will break sideways through time. If we do something like this with a horizontal level as well, you'll notice, where did we find support? Almost right at the exact low of this wick from in the past. So if that were to break, I would really expect a larger flush, right? And just zooming out here, you can see maybe there's a little bit of support here from this as well, but zooming out further, the next major area of support I would watch out for, we're kind of testing these highs from in here. So the breakout area is the support we're testing now. The next major one to pay attention to would be from in here. And just to put a value to that, just to give you an idea, that's going to come in right around 1138. So still some ways to fall in this one as well if this area goes. Not expecting a break of the resistance trend line, firmly through price. Obviously, the downtrend here is well intact. But if there were, I would say that the major area of resistance to pay attention to was prior support here at 1778. Lastly, to wrap it up with XLM, Stellar, sorry, not Lumen, Stellar. And Stellar is actually, to me, it looks like it's trying to break the resistance trend line, right? If we do something like this, it did break it, it's back testing and it's bouncing, and it's kind of holding more sideways as opposed to being in a firm downtrend like many of the things we just watched. So that being said, Stellar might be something that I keep on my radar. Again, really focusing on those top four. Let me know in the comments if you want me to continue with these bottom six, but that's the line in the sand to the upside, right? Just over 25 cents. Can we accept above it? In which case, I would say the next major target would be up here, right around 29, we'll call it 29 cents. To the downside, the area that you want to see hold on any sideways consolidation here has to be right around here, right? And the reason we're saying 23.48 is because it was prior support in here, and then congestion, right? You could also make the argument that there is a support trend line, something like this, that you could pay attention to. I know it looks like a lot of lines on the screen, but there is a ton of support in this general area at 23. If we were to pull back a little bit, boom, there's your support trend line. We did make a new higher high, so that is a potential buy in the case we come into that support trend line. So all things considered, I hope you enjoyed the analysis. I know I kept it quick on the bottom six. Let me know what you think about only doing the top four into the future here. That being said, I hope to see you all at the weekly watch list on Sunday, and I wish you a green trading weekend if you trade crypto, and a green trading week into the upcoming week of stock market trade.